Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abasi. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers out there. We continue our oil price watch, and things really are getting critical now with respect to what oil prices, particularly Brent, means for oil-producing countries like Nigeria, Iran, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and so on. Brent fell to in fact, it's still there. It fell to $69 a barrel yesterday. It climbed a bit to $70 when we were reporting this about 4 p.m. yesterday on the Global Business Report on our afternoon segment, but then, fell again this morning. So it is at $69 a barrel, a level not seen since December of 2021. West Texas Intermediate, which is North American grade, that is at 67. That is flirting with a 66, excuse me. That is flirting with a three-year low. And again, to remind people, Nigeria's budget benchmark is 77.96. I mean, I cannot overemphasize. I played you the clip where Bismarck Rwani was saying Nigeria needs $85 to $90 oil, and we are at the high 60s. What happens if your salary falls by a certain amount? You must cut spending in order to augment that. If we go to how oil has performed so far this year, they are down by double digits. Looking at the performance so far in 2024, Brent crude is down 10.2% year to date. West Texas Intermediate, that is down 8.2%. Even natural gas is down 11.2%. Of course, Keir Starmer's decision to pull subsidies for pensioners, maybe he might get some cover with prices falling, but as wintertime comes, demand could see prices going up. But we'll see what happens as we get closer there. Now, we get to OPEC. OPEC was part of the reason why prices fell even further. OPEC has updated their forecast for demand for a second time in 2 months. They did it in August. They've done it again as of yesterday. So now OPEC is saying that as far as demand is concerned for 2024, they're looking at 2 million barrels per day. That has been lowered by about 80,000 barrels compared to their last update in August. For 2025, they're seeing 1.7 million, which is about $40,000 lower. Excuse me, $40,000. 40,000 barrels lower. Now, the thing to note here is that there's a hurricane approaching the Gulf Coast in the U.S. Chevron and a number of oil and gas companies have actually shut down production around Beaumont, Texas, and some other areas because of that oncoming hurricane. But that wasn't even enough to raise prices. Even the geopolitical concerns, Ukraine possibly getting some support from the U.S. in order to respond to Iran giving ballistic missiles to Russia, for which Iran has been sanctioned. A recent attack in Gaza that killed a number of people from the Israeli side. All that still, geopolitical concerns have so far paled in comparison to the fundamental demand and supply dynamic of oil. And I bring up the debates because I was waiting to hear that. Kamala Harris actually did bring that up when they asked her about her position on fracking, how she said she supports, she wanted to ban it before, but she was against it. She pointed out that when she cast the tie-breaking votes for the Inflation Reduction Act in the Senate, the Biden administration actually gave out more drilling permits in the U.S. And now you're seeing shale production increasing. You are seeing, and that's the thing, and that is validated. Her comment on fracking, our comment on oil production in the U.S. is actually validated by the fact that West Texas Intermediate, because of increased supply, West Texas Intermediate is now at a 3-year low. And it's now being said that for U.S. people in the U.S., by Thanksgiving, you could see fuel prices drop to about $3 a gallon. It was about $3.50. So that bodes well for the Democrats going towards the election. Let's talk technology. As I mentioned yesterday, Huawei made an attempt to upstage Apple by coming out with their own phone, the Mate XT. Take a look at it. It's the first triple folding phone, but costs $2,800. I mean, look, a $2,800 phone, if you use current exchange rate, that's almost, 4.4 million naira. There's an equity fund that was just launched the other day. I won't mention who, not to advertise them, but they're offering a minimum of 5 million naira in order to invest in their equity fund that is focused on Nigeria. So you can imagine having the choice of either buying an almost 4.5 million naira phone or investing 5 million at a minimum in an equity fund for the future. So that's Huawei trying to upstage Apple. And don't forget, despite the chip curbs to China from the US, Huawei has still been able to produce. So we'll see how things work. But that price point compared to where the iPhone 16 is for a Pro Max of about 1,100 or 1,200, it's a pretty large gap. Let's get to Nigeria and the front page of today's This Day newspaper, Nigeria's newspaper of record. That $900 million that has been raised from the domestic US dollar bond for Nigeria, investors indeed have warmed to it. And it's always about the numbers. It was 500 million that they were looking for, and it was an oversubscription of 1.8x. So if you want to express it in percentage terms, 180%. Again, 9.75% coupon over 5 years, and the proceeds, as Wale Edo, Minister of Finance, said, is going to be used for critical infrastructure. Here's his quotes. He was quoted in This Day newspaper. The issuance of this inaugural domestic FGN US dollar bond demonstrates that investors as well as Nigerians continue to have faith in the country's economy, and that indeed has been validated by that oversubscription figure. To Patience Oniha, who is the Director General of the Debt Management Office, she said the transaction was made possible through the expertise and guidance of advisors. We also appreciate the continued support of the Nigerian public and our institutional partners who contributed to the successful completion of this historic issuance. So, good on them, and they possibly again, this is the first phase of part of a wider program. Again, when you have issues like oil falling and the money that's supposed to be coming in, you're either going to have to borrow or you're going to have to cut spending. And speaking of cutting spending, you've already talked about this. I'm kind of getting tired of talking about this already, but it's important to keep reminding folks. With Vice President Shetima representing President Tinubu, talking about defending what should now be called a partial removal or phased removal of fuel subsidies. Again, I updated my chart. I've been charting PMS prices in Nigeria versus Brent, and now that Brent is below $70, again, look at this chart in orange for PMS prices and in blue for Brent crude. I mean, look at that divergence. Ayo brought up the fact that South Africa had reduced fuel prices as a result of Brent crude coming down. Now, of course, South Africa fuel is over 2,000 naira a litre there if you compare. But still, the point is that if the Petroleum Industry Act, which Dr. Abati brought up earlier, had not been violated and the downstream sector had been deregulated in the last 8 years of the prior administration, and you allowed market forces to determine where prices would be, Nigerians now would be like the Americans or the South Africans in enjoying lower fuel prices at the pump. But because that has been distorted and held now, and I will continue to update these charts because the numbers tell the story better than everyone else, while everybody is enjoying lower fuel prices when oil is at a record low, we have to pay more, and there's also fiscal issues. But that is our update for today.
I disagree with you, and I'll tell you how. You see, what is the problem is the insincerity. If you remember, there was a time in the Buhari administration that crude oil prices fell to almost zero. They said they had fully deregulated then.
Into a recession.
No, crude oil, no, that's not what I'm saying, Rotus. I'm talking about the late, early 2000 and something. I started working in Arise there. Crude oil prices fell up to almost zero. I think it was during COVID period, if my memory serves me right. That prices reduced, that they said
2016 and 2020.
Yeah, 2020. And they said we are deregulated. So it shows that they were lying to us then. That's why I say I totally disagree with you. Because the point is, let us attack the lies these people are telling to us. It was in 2020 that I think there was a particular day that international market couldn't even lift crude and the price was in the negative territory. Then the prices went from about 165 to about 160. And the lie they told us then, as usual, was that it shows that we are fully deregulated and we are fully following the PIA. So the truth is, what is the truth in this matter? It is constant lies every time. And that's why you see that because we are not fully deregulated, That's why you see that if the price of Brent is reducing internationally, we can't have the price reduced. I was in Kenya. It is 190. It is 190 shillings for a price of petrol, 1 liter. A dollar to $1 to 1 shilling is about 127. So that's about $1.50 thereabouts. So I think what we should bring out is the lies of these people. Because you see, you can't build nothing on it. That's why when Vice President Shettima was talking, he was telling porkies. Because there's no removal of subsidy anywhere. The reason why the price has increased is because of the deregulation. It's because of the devaluation of the currency. So there's no truth to all this narrative.
No, Rufai, subsidies have been partially removed. Now look at the chart now. The chart is there in front of you.
When was it partially
see
removed?
The movement in PMS prices.
When was it partially removed, Rotus?
Right. In June of 2023, hold on. In June of 2023, fuel prices went from 185 to 550.
Yes.
A month later, they moved to 600 level.
Yes.
Since 600 level, we've now gone to 855. What do you call that? When prices are moving like that, what do you call that?
So, Rotus, in that time to this
time... Is that on the chart?
No, hang on a minute. Without the chart. Between that time to this time, what has happened to your Forex? When your Forex price took a beating, wait, let me finish, Rotus. When the Naira got devalued against the dollar, are the price not supposed to increase if you are operating in dollar?
All right,
what are we saying here?
Rotus, let me go to the United States and China. I see this Apple and Huawei clash as a contest between the two superpowers, shall I say. Now, Huawei has introduced a new phone, the X-Mate series, the Mate XT series, and it's going to come out on the same day as the iPhone 16. Now, they have said that, according to pre-orders, they have 4 million people who pre-ordered the Huawei phone, and that it is in strong contention with Apple. Obviously, number one, because of the AI solutions, which we talked about yesterday. Apple is said to almost not move away from its, from the iPhone 15 Pro Max to the iPhone 16, and Huawei might just take that market share of Apple, especially in China, where Apple phones are falling to number 6. I say this because, of course, we look at the contributions of Apple as a $1 trillion company to the United States economy. We saw that come up in the debate where Kamala had accused Trump of not winning the war, the chip war with Taiwan and China, and that in itself is a dent on America as a superpower in that era. So that's why I'm saying that when it comes to even taking over this industry, with Huawei coming on stream and coming on board with this innovation of the three-fold, and it would be the slimmest three-fold or foldable phone, let's see what would happen to Apple's share or market share, especially in their biggest market, which is China. But come September 20, let's see who would survive, the survival of the fittest, who would be the biggest when it comes to getting the consumers to put out some money, some hard cash to buy either of the phones. I'm rooting for Huawei. I think their innovation, because Apple has fallen short of that in recent years, would be the game changer in this regard.
Okay, yes, the competition in the smartphone market, Apple is concerned that it's losing its edge in the area of artificial intelligence innovation. But they say they are working on it. They are not even among the top 5 in the China market. But they are looking at innovation, because if companies do not innovate, they will get behind the line. But the more important news about Apple, that I think, is the decision of the European Court of Justice yesterday to impose, or rather to affirm a fine of 13 billion euros that Apple has to pay to Ireland. The case started in 2016 when the European competition chief, Margaret Vestager, had led a committee to say that, look, Apple was enjoying, some kind of sweeter deal from Ireland, and about less than 1% in terms of taxation. Ireland is the main headquarters of Apple in Europe. Now, that case, initially, a lower court, ruled in favor of Apple. But now the European Court of Justice has now said, look, you have to pay that 13 billion euros, about $14.4 billion to Republic of Ireland. Ironically, Ireland finds itself in a clumsy situation because Ireland has been saying, no, we did not strike any sweetheart deal, with Apple. But now this judgment has come. The Irish, who are going into an election before March next year, don't know what to say. They don't know what to do with the money. But, well, the money, which is in an escrow account, will now go to them. Now, Apple is saying it is disappointed. But it is not only Apple that has had a judgment against it. Even Google has been slammed with a judgment of $2.4 billion, dollars. So on both sides, you find Europe, winning against big tech. Google on one hand, Apple on the other hand, and that's the story about that. But the other thing was the effect of the presidential debate yesterday. South Korea's unemployment rate has gone down to 2.4%, we're told. But in the Southeast Asian market, the market, there's been a slide. Even in the US, stock market wavered. About 4 major stocks were on green light. So people are monitoring the uncertainty that is likely to come. And next week is when Federal Reserve will give us reality as to whether it's cutting rates or not. But today, we're going to have US CPI. They are going to give inflation figures. Tomorrow, we will have PPI, Producer Price Index. And these are the two last major economic data that the Federal Reserve is waiting for to make a decision next week. When rates go down, people are happy. There will be growth, there will be employment, consumer spending will go up. It's a sign of a better economy. It's only bankers that benefit from high interest rates. Maybe bankers will not be happy. But, these two issues, the debate, the election, and also, next week data coming from Federal Reserve, beginning from today. Thank you very much, Rotus.